Well, Mayor, thank you for sitting down with us today. So let's launch right into this. Give us the elevator pitch for why the city needs this proposed public safety center.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the city of Atlanta does not have a place where we can train our police officers and firefighters and to be able to go out here and help the community. I believe that that's a challenge for a city this size when all of our cities around us, whether that's Gwinnett County, Cobb County, Brookhaven, others, they have a place for firefighters and then they have a place for police to train. Right now, all the places that we have in the city are condemned. So we're borrowing space at Atlanta Metropolitan College. We're traveling hours outside to learn how to be police or learn how to be firefighters. So we need this to protect the citizens and make them safe. But we also need it so that we can do 21st century policing, community-based policing. Firefighters and police officers work together a lot on things to bring about safety. So we need this. And right now, if we don't have it, we'll continue to rent and be a nuisance to this college that we're borrowing space from, but also that we will have an inability to recruit talent to come to our police force and firefighters so they can do what they need to do.
This has become one of the most complicated battles of your first term as mayor. Have you been surprised by the pushback and the level of political capital that you've had to invest into making sure this project moves forward?
Yeah, I have actually been surprised. You know, I'm a technocrat, right? I'm an engineer, so a lot of things I do, I think about it linearly. So you come into this office and there's a problem with garbage pickup, so we pick up the garbage services on time. You have potholes, we set up a pothole posse so you get it in 5 days or less, you get your potholes filled. You know, affordable housing, bringing down crime is something that we've done. I just try to do the things, and with a good team, we put things together to make that happen, to effectuate change the way the community has asked. But this public safety training center to have a whole life of its own where outside folks are commenting on it, that people are talking about it in places I hadn't even expected, that folks have come here to talk about it. That is a surprise, but nonetheless, we're still steadfast on getting good community input that says, let's improve this. What could we do? What could we, how could we greater impact and benefit the community? That's important to me. That goes back to my community member roots, my NPU, neighborhood leader roots, and nonprofit roots. And I'm understanding the conversation now more and more to be able to say, all right, what is happening? How can we make sure that we build trust in this area as we've built trust in all the other areas that we've touched as an administration?
Well, let's expand on that, because you recently went with a number of your aides and supporters of this project to the members of the community that would be affected by this. And I'm sure you heard from a range of emotions, some supportive, some not so supportive. What do you tell them? What did you hear and what did you tell them?
Yeah, so there's been a stakeholder group for the last year or more that's been meeting monthly to talk about what they'd like to see. And so the things that they've said they wanted to see, a lot of that input has gone into it. They want sidewalks, they want to have access to the facility so they can do their community meetings and have gatherings. They also want the noise to be cut down, so we're moving certain elements from away from the neighborhoods towards the industrial sites so that this is more away from the community. And they wanted a 100-foot tree buffer, and they wanted all the various things they've asked for. Now we've agreed to, including reducing the size of it from 150 acres to 85 acres. So the community input around there has been instrumental. And so I wanted to go on my own with my team to go knock on doors and just talk with community members that are in DeKalb County, right? I'm not their mayor directly, but we all have a great relationship with DeKalb County. When I walked around and knocked on doors, I was unaware of what I was going to get. And these members were coming out saying, hey, we need this because these folks are out here in the woods, or this has been a dumping ground for so many years. There's old cars out here. There's refrigerators out here, tires out here, paint cans. And they're saying, if you're going to improve this, make a park trail and these things, let's get on with it already so that we can get these things out of the woods and make it more productive. I was surprised by that, but I was not solely surprised by that, but I was intrigued by that. And there was a few members that was like, what about the forest? And what about some of these things that we're hearing about? Like, is there going to be a Black Hawk helicopter over here? And I was like, no, ma'am, no Black Hawk helicopters on the cities. We can't afford them, So they're like, okay, that was a myth. Yeah, certain things are not true.
Did you learn anything from those meetings that will help your response? Is it going to change any of your strategy now that you've talked to more people in the community who could be affected by this?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we put together this task force, and some of those community members are in this task force and in other stakeholder groups. So what has really helped by talking to the community is, you start to hear that, okay, this side of the facility feels this way. They're really ready to go. This side wants a few more conversations about, now, once you do this, how else will we be able to benefit? Folks are asking about McNair High School. Like, what can they have access to this park for cross-country track runs? I'm like, hey, let's talk about it. I hadn't thought about that, right? The sidewalks will enhance the ability to get to the school. And so, can this school be able to have workforce development opportunities for their kids during the site construction? Things that are coming up from the community are now making me even more broader in my view of it and how we should create more benefits for the community to understand it for sure, but also to participate in it. So it's helping.
Mayor, not so long ago, in a clip that got a lot of traction on social media, you were heckled at a meeting of HBCU students who have pushed back on this idea. What are you saying specifically to the African American community about this project when they're raising concerns about what it could mean?
Yeah, I want to sink into that a little bit because, I went to Morehouse and asked the president, can I meet with your student body and leadership? And he said yes. And so he said, can I make it open to other AUC students? So we went and had Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Morris Brown, anybody with an AUC badge could get in, a pass. And we had a lot of students there. And it was slated for an hour and a half. I stayed there 3.5 hours. So when you see a little clip and you see me, I'm there for 3.5 hours. I literally answered every single question. We had lines over here and lines over here. Get to the mic. I probably answered, dozens and dozens, maybe 100 questions. I don't know how many. They just kept coming, and I would answer, and then I would turn to the next side and answer. And during that process, an hour or two in, a young woman, I don't know what school she attends, but she yelled out some pretty nasty things to me. And I said, hey, get in line if you can, because that's how we do this thing. If you're in line, I will answer any question. But if you're robbing someone else from the time that they're getting when they get to ask a question. So get in line. And she mumbled some things, and I kept on answering questions. She blurted out again even worse explicits at me and yelled at me and called me some racially charged negative names, including sellout and some other things that I don't want to say. And my immediate reaction was, listen, I gave you a chance to get in line, and you called me a sellout and some other things. You don't know me well enough to call me a sellout. I grew up in this community. I've been black a whole long time, right? So you can't out-black me or whatever this is that you're trying to do. I'm telling you that I know real victims and I know real community members, and what they want is to make sure that we are all safe. And so what I'm trying to do is get feedback from you on how we can do more of that. But calling me a sellout because I want to help enhance the community, keep more people safe. And I know that there's a whole lot of school teachers that want their kids that are, trying to be pulled into gangs. They want us to do some stuff about that. We got parents that have come to the very microphone at Atlanta City Council saying, what can the police do to help my kid who is now going off the deep end? How can you guys help that? I know real people because I've been around this community a long time. I got friends that are in jail, and I got friends that have been victims. Once you have a worldview that's as rounded as I have, you want to be a little bit more conversant than to be yelled at and called names and have accusations thrown at you, all because you're trying to provide safety for the community.
Let's talk about the police response, because a few weeks ago, 23 people at the site were arrested and charged with domestic terrorism counts. They carry potential sentences of between 5 and 35 years in prison. Critics, of course, are saying this is disproportionate to the offenses that they could have violated. Do you consider these defendants domestic terrorists, and do you agree with the decision by police officers to charge them with this violation?
Yeah, what I'm charged with is being able to make sure that that the community is safe, and that when you light Molotov cocktails, you throw fireworks at police officers and Molotov cocktails and rocks at anybody. You throw a rock at anybody, whether it's a police officer or whether it's another citizen, you will be arrested. That's just you could do that today on Mitchell Street, you're going to be arrested. Not that it occurred at the Public Safety Training Center or near that site. So no matter what, we're conducting the law. And the law is that if you go into the woods and you say that you're having a festival, and then halfway through that festival, you've convinced everybody that you're on, music interest, and then you go change clothes into black riot gear and you have accelerants and fireworks and gas and shields and masks, and you come charging towards another group of people, burning up equipment, burning right near a Georgia Power huge transformer power line that feeds downtown, you could have caused even more damage, so you should be arrested. And my job is to make sure that the police and the firefighters have the tools to stop that and to put out the fire. But I don't make charges. I'm not a judge, I'm not a prosecutor, and I'm not the police, so I don't set the charges. They got charges that the police and the prosecutor thought were appropriate, and now it's carried out in court.
So you're not rendering a verdict on whether you think that the charges fit the potential crime?
I think there were crimes, and so they sit in jail because of those crimes.
Gotcha. Well, look, you came into your first term with this far-ranging policy agenda. You've declared 2023 the year of the youth. You have a number of items that you're already working on. But are you concerned that the choices you made regarding this project will end up defining your first term in office? Because when you were running for election, this was one of many issues you talked about, but it might not have been the top of mind.
No, it wasn't the top of mind. And I'll be honest, each day I try to wake up and convince myself that this shouldn't be top of mind, because I still am truly dedicated to declaring this year the year of the youth. And I try to make sure that each week I'm going to visit schools. Each week I'm making sure that our midnight basketball plans are evolving and moving forward. Each week I'm making sure that we evaluate these nonprofits that we're giving grants to so that they can continue to help. So I try to wake up, and at sometimes it's a forced first thought, because generally speaking, my phone might have something from Public Safety Training Center. But I'm making sure that this is the year of the youth and that this won't affect that. I'm also making sure that people are safe. When I wake up and Lisa Gordon, my COO, and police chief, who we meet with every morning, they say, no shootings and no homicides last night, Mayor, ready for 8:30, our meeting, that feels real, real good, Greg. And it used to not feel so good, right? And so right now, I'm trying to keep those things in mind as we talk most of the day about, people that's asking us questions on Public Safety Training Center, but I still have a whole city to run. Somebody right now wants a pothole filled. I gotta make sure that we're prepared for that. Somebody right now is thinking about, hey, are you coming to make sure that my park equipment gets fixed because spring is coming? The yard waste is getting picked up. I have to run a whole city, because over time, you'll be judged by how impactful you were on moving the city forward. And this right here is an important part of the infrastructure that helps move the city forward. And I just wish that we would do a better job of having the open communication versus some of the stuff that's out there.
I'll ask you about that in a second, but are you committed to this project, this public safety project, going forward 100% no matter what?
So I'm committed to making sure that we get something built that will enable our police officers and firefighters to train. This site has already been improved greatly to make sure that it has little impact, as less impact as possible on community, but a greater benefit to the community because of this large park that we're going to build with green space and trails, etc. I remember just 2 years ago when this was voted on by the city council, and we voted to approve it. At the same time, there was protesters outside our house, because we were virtual back then, outside each of our houses that, they were banging on doors, banging on pots and pans. They had the same, strength and fire that they wanted to have about that, and the city council voted in favor of it. So this has been approved. The EPD has looked at our plans and approved it. DeKalb County has given us permits after a year of review and approving it. Injunctions were filed in Fulton County, and those were denied. So this has stood the test of legality and Environmental Protection Agency and those things. So we're standing on an approved ground. This ground is approved by City Council, by Fulton County, by DeKalb, as well as by the EPD. Trucks could be moving right now, but I'm also having a conversation with the community that I want it to be a fair and balanced conversation, because when I talk to Ms. Jones in Cascade or Mr. Brown that's in Southeast Atlanta, he wants us to get on with it because it's important for our public safety. They don't have Twitter. They don't have they don't spend all day with a hashtag. They spend all day trying to make sure that their nieces and nephews and grandsons are safe.
And that goes into my next question, Mayor, because we're starting to see the beginnings of this project, but it could take years. And so is the institutional capital there from your office to see this project through if we could be talking about these same issues, protest demonstrators, you name it, 2 years from now, 3 years from now?
Yeah, I hope not. Atlanta has been chosen for a lot of things. People are moving here each and every day. I'm spending a lot of time trying to make sure the people that are here are able to pay their mortgages, just like what we did with Tyler Perry, to make sure these seniors can afford these tax bills. And I'm trying to make sure this place is a place of opportunity for folks, and that the future is bright for everybody, keeping the city whole, but also growing this city in a balanced way. And this should not take up more of our brain space and our interest than all the other things that were here long before I got here to this seat. And so, this isn't my fault, but it is my problem to deal with, and I like to see things through. I know that there's enough people that are interested in the future of us having a safe city and a city that gives people the opportunities. One or the other could affect you. So if you don't provide for safety, you could be affected because no one wants to develop opportunities here. And if you are safe, but you don't provide opportunities for people to thrive, you can also be hurt. So it's a both and I think, we're prepared to do that.
Do you have any regrets about how your administration has handled this, the misinformation, the response, the police actions, anything?
I would say the biggest regret is that we weren't nimble in the beginning. The first year of my administration, we were hiring so many people to get up to speed. We were making initiatives, setting the vision, cleaning up things like Forest Cove, People's Town. I mean, we had old outstanding issues, lawsuits with folks that long had need to be dismissed. We were making sure that we were building a lot of affordable housing, getting the Beltline moving, making sure that these youth had opportunities. We did a lot in the first year, and we blew past the fact that, well, DeKalb is working on a permit. They're working on a permit. We keep working on what we're working on. So had we gone into campaign mode again, gone knock on doors, go talk to people, build up an army of folks that are saying, let's do this. We could have got ahead of some of these folks that are, going on it right now. So from a political and communication standpoint, maybe we could have done some things to get out ahead of it so that the narrative would have been in our favor. So this makes us an uphill battle, but we still have the facts in our favor more so than the narrative. And that's what we're trying to balance that out.
So if there's a lesson, campaign mode never ends in the mayor's office. Whether you like it or not.
Sadly, you're in one campaign or another. And I can tell you, as I was knocking on doors on Sunday, going into DeKalb County, and knocked on doors on Wednesday, and we have some more door knocking planned, I certainly was feeling like I had a T-shirt on that said, vote for me.
Flashbacks to 21.
I had flashbacks getting out there, being a little sweaty and talking to people. And but now it's a little different because folks end their conversation with you with, can I get a picture?
Well, you mentioned big events, and here's my next question, which is, do you worry that all this tumult over the Public Safety Center could jeopardize Atlanta's bid for the DNC, but not just the DNC, but other major events that could be coming down the line?
I keep it in my mind, but I don't let it lead. Atlanta doesn't have to have festivals and events at scale, more so than they need to have safety, and more so than they need to have people having opportunities. I will very much be happy that we're having FIFA World Cup, that we are chosen to have the National Football Championship. And yes, my phone is ready at any moment when Biden calls me and says, let's do the DNC in Atlanta. All those things I'm very interested in, but none of those are more important than making sure that every Atlantan feels safe and actually is safe, and that we also have thriving communities. So I'm going to work on what Atlanta needs to do while we also stay attractive to the rest of the nation. People still choose Atlanta. The NLC is having their conference here in Atlanta also in November. African American Mayors Association just voted 2 or 3 weeks ago to do their conference here in Atlanta later this year. Like, folks are still like, they call me, my fraternity wants to do it here in Atlanta. Like, everybody is calling saying we want to do things in Atlanta. So I don't think that this is hurting us. I think this is a part of a conversation that I've heard from other mayors. It's like, man, you're getting it. We're actually building a public safety, training center. Theirs is usually, we're the only one that's building one that's like both police and fire. They're like, we're building a police facility, and nobody's talking to us about it. Keep your stuff over there. And I'm like, yeah, thanks.
I've asked you about the prospects of you abandoning the project or pulling back, but is there any chance of the lease being amended or even revoked?
We can look at that. I don't think that that's necessarily the first thing I'm going to look at, though. I mean, this was voted on by the city council. This was approved. It's moved through. I don't know what eliminating a lease would do. It could, eliminate the lease, and we still own the land. We've owned this land that for decades has been, first it was a police academy, then it was, there's also a prison farm and a portion of it. All of that now has rubble for buildings, burnt out cars in the middle of it, paint cans all over the place, like thousands of paint cans, thousands and thousands of tires that people have burned over time, animals. I mean, like everything that you would not want to just be hanging out in there is in there, refrigerators. So, you could change the lease, but you won't change the fact that these grounds need to be enhanced so that individuals in the community can have a benefit. And you will still need to find a place for us to train police officers and train firefighters, because careful as I might need to say this to you so that you know that we are still good on insurance, good on being able to respond. Right now, we do not have a place of our own that is training the state's largest police force and the state's largest fire force. That's scary. We need to make sure we do that. So we can talk about leases, but what we need to do is talk about what provides the balanced approach to safety that also has safety and justice at heart.
The bottom line. Well, thank you so much, Mayor.
All right.